January 5th. I'm talking to Ellis Tollin, telephone interview. Okay. So, where were we last time?
I don't know where we were last time. I don't even know where I am this time.
I wanted to ask you, I've got the Metronome article in front of me, and it says you started the Swing Club band in 1953. Would you agree with that, or?
Swing Club.
You know, your big band?
Well, the big band, probably, yes.
Okay.
In fact, I was just looking through some things, and I found a tape of a couple of tunes.
Right.
This is for you. Later on, when I can get a chance to copy them.
Oh, great. Now, who all was in the band? Who was your rhythm section?
The rhythm section usually was Ace Tollin on bass.
Right.
And Jimmy Golden on piano.
Okay.
That was usually.
Right.
And every once in a while, one of them wouldn't show up. But that was pretty much the standard rhythm section.
Right. And who'd you have on?
That's a good question. Whatever other questions you're going to ask, because they varied. Al Steele was almost always there.
Okay.
Mike Goldberg usually played lead alto, but sometimes he switched to tenor if we had a different lead alto player show up and we didn't have a tenor man.
Right.
Frank Taberry played in the band.
Right.
You know who Frank is?
Oh, yeah, I know Frank.
Okay. Buddy Sabat.
Right.
Ziggy Vines.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to remember.
You had Bob Loudon in the band, too.
No, that was in the trombone section.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of my baritone saxophone player. If I don't think of his name, he's going to scream. No. What is his name?
Well, let me look. Let me see.
He's a little red-headed kid. He was a little red-headed kid. Billy,
Let me see what I've got here now. What do you say, Barry sax?
baritone.
Let me see. Bobby Root?
Billy Root.
Billy Root.
Billy Root played baritone.
Okay.
And let me see. I told her we had various tenor players at various times.
Yeah, you had what on trumpet?
Trumpet.
Joe Techner.
Joe Techner. Vinnie Tano was in the band.
Right.
Don Lane sometimes played in the band. I think in that picture and the metronome, if that's what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking about, the metronome picture?
Yeah.
Well, you don't know. It's not the names written in there?
No, well, it's got for Mike Goldberg, lead alto, Al Steele, Frank DeBerry, Lou Scusa.
Lou Scusa was piano?
They have him as alto.
Oh, okay. Scusa, go ahead.
Ed Bagley, Joe Techner.
He was lead trumpet.
Okay. Joe Techner.
Joe Techner played jazz.
Ralph Clemson, Don Lane.
Okay, they were in the band at various times.
Okay.
They were not consistent.
All right.
The fellows that were consistent were Ed Badgley, Vinnie Tano, Joe Techner, and then the other guy would vary at times depending on who was available.
Okay, what nights did you guys get together with the big band?
We usually played on, the Swing Club played on Tuesday nights.
Okay. What time did you start?
Band started at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
When I say the band, not always the band. The Swing Club started at 7 o'clock because the featured or guest artists were people usually who were visitors in town.
Right.
If Dizzy Gillespie was in town that night,
right,
that week rather, then he knew that Tuesday night he was going to be at the Swing Club at 7 o'clock.
How did you set that up?
What's that?
How did you set that? Did you
How
pay
did we
them?
set that up?
Yeah.
Well, in the beginning it was much tougher than it was later on.
Okay.
So I'll tell you about a guy who was very important to me.
All right.
In the beginning, I would look in the paper and see who was coming in.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Right.
They would say that so-and-so's coming in town, or or sometimes they would call me and say they're coming in town to get a rhythm section, and I knew what date they were coming in since I was playing in the band.
Right.
They were easy. But sometimes I wasn't playing with them and they were coming in town, so I would call them up ahead of time. Then later, I was involved with Jack Fields. Do you remember Jack Fields?
Yeah, he ran the Blue Note.
He ran the Blue Note.
Right.
Jack and I were very close friends.
Well, weren't you a member of the house band there?
Not a member of the house. There was no house band. It was house band changed all the time.
Oh, because I thought you were there with Jimmy Mobley and Fats Wright and those people.
I played with all those people, sure.
Oh, okay. But you weren't.
Fats Wright was there.
Okay.
Right. And Jimmy Mobley played there at times, and Nelson Boyd played there at times.
Right.
So I played over there many a time with the rhythm section for whoever came in.
Right.
And I said to Jack, Jack, why don't you make life easier on me? And when the guys get in there on Monday, tell them that they have to be at my place on Tuesday. Or if you talk to them a week ahead of time, let them know that.
Right.
And this is what he did. And we had no problem after that.
Oh.
It was much easier.
Okay. Did you have to pay him to come over?
No.
Oh, well, that was nice.
None of those people got paid.
Oh, wow.
Because they were doing it for the kids.
Right.
Right. The only one that got paid was my landlord.
Right.
I had to pay him. I had to pay the U.S. Postal Service because we used to send these newsletters out.
Okay.
Right. And the kids paid $1 to get in.
All right, so you would start at 7, would be the main artist, or would that be?
That was the guest artist.
And what would they do, like a workshop, or they'd sit?
Normally it would be, and when it was the drum shop, it was a workshop.
Okay.
I mean, not the drum shop. When it was the, what's the word I was using? You'll have to excuse me. I'm getting old.
No, never.
Oh yes.
Jazz people don't get old.
Yes. Oh, yes. We had drum clinics.
Okay.
Right. After the drum clinics were people who would come up and would talk to the kids about their experience and things like that. Mm-hmm. Then show them little things, and the kids would ask questions, and that turned into the swing club. That was a direct evolution of the drum clinics.
Okay, so that would start at 7 and go. And how long would they do this? About an hour?
Well, the guest artists would leave at 8 o'clock because they had to get back to their gig and start at 9.
Right.
Sometimes they would stay till 8:30 because Blue Note was not that far from where we were.
Right.
So it depended on the individuals. But usually I like to get them out of there as fast as I could so that they would make their gig on time.
So if you had if you had somebody like Roy Eldridge,
somebody like Roy Eldridge,
we
would open up with Roy Eldridge in the rhythm section.
Oh, that you would select.
Roy Eldridge in the rhythm section and a couple of other guys with the rhythm section. The house band was usually a sextet.
Okay.
It was usually the rhythm section, and then I would have maybe a couple of trumpet players and one saxophone player, or a couple of saxophone players and a trumpet player. It would depend on who was available.
Okay.
Or sometimes it would just be a rhythm section and a horn man, if that's all that showed up.
Right.
Because they had to work too, the musicians.
Right.
The guest stars would play with who was ever there.
Okay.
I would not have them with the big band. The only person I really had with the big band was Dizzy.
Right.
Otherwise, the big band was a show by itself.
Right.
And I always had the big band on after the guest stars left.
Right.
So it would start with a small group and the guest star. They would do their hour stint or 45-minute stint, whatever they wanted to do. When they left, then the big band would play.
Okay. And how long?
Or if the big band didn't play, then sometimes I would let the younger jazz musicians play.
Okay.
And the younger jazz musicians played quite great. They were wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the younger group was Teddy Curson, Lee Morgan. Mm-hmm. Right. I got to think of all the names. I don't even remember them anymore.
But they were. But so how late would it go? Usually 10 o'clock, 11.
No. It would go usually till around 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. And about how
if we started at 7. And we had the guest star there on the first set, which is usually where he was.
Right.
Maybe we would play one number or two numbers before the guest star came in or played. But whatever it was, We would usually get out of there by 8 o'clock. And then from there, I would sit and work until around 6 in the morning. And I had a couple of people helping me. We used to take photographs of everybody, and we would sit down and write up the articles, and tell the people who was there that week and who was coming the following week. And then we would put that right in the mail that night.
Right.
In fact, when Clifford died, we had put the postage in the mail before I knew he died. So it said Clifford was here last week and so-and-so is coming next week, and it never said anything about Clifford passing away.
Right, right.
It was terrible.
Yeah. So you were, so you did all the writing of the newsletter?
No, I had a lot of help.
Okay.
I don't remember who the editor was.
Okay.
I was the editor, but I had other people that helped me.
Okay. All right.
I will think of that person. I have to go through the newsletters.
Okay.
Sometimes I have their names in there.
I found some of your advertisements today. I was over at the, I've been over at the Urban Archives going through the Musicians Union stuff.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of your older advertisements in their Arpeggio magazine from the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I found some really interesting things in there.
If you hold on.
Sure.
I'm going to look through here, and in the next 5 minutes we'll find something.
Well, you want to keep talking while you're looking, or?
I'm talking while I'm looking.
All right. Well, what I'd like you to do is kind of describe a typical working day at Music City, for the time you got in there in the morning and unlocked the doors until
Music City was a musical instrument store.
Right. Well, kind of describe your day. If you're going to tell somebody exactly what, kind of your day-to-day.
I'm looking at something here that's got the 15-piece band here that might have been the same picture that was in the
metronome thing?
The metronome. This is November 1955.
I think this. Well, maybe that is the same, because this article is a 56 article.
Yeah, but it could have been the same picture.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Is somebody standing up and playing the saxophone?
Let me go. Here it is.
Looks like Al Steele standing up in this picture.
Would you have a microphone right in the foreground?
There's a microphone in the foreground.
With a little tag hanging from it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the same picture. Only the picture I have is a microfilm picture.
There's a microphone there.
Yeah, okay, it's the same picture. But the one I have isn't very clear because it was.
Al Steele is standing up playing.
Oh, okay.
And Mike Goldberg is sitting next to him. Frank Taberry is sitting next to Mike Goldberg.
Oh, so you have the regular picture from it, right?
No, I'm just looking at a newsprint.
Oh, okay, all right.
From the Quaker City Jazz. Then it looks like there's Billy Root.
All right, well, see, mine's really faint because I've got a thing on microfilm. You know what I do is I did a copy from a microfilm.
Okay, and I can see Joe Techner's head above somebody, Ed Badgley, and I see Ralph Clemson there.
Right.
And then I see the, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Leo Fogel's playing trombone.
Okay.
And Bob Loudon and Doug Loudon are playing trombone.
Yeah, he was the one that wrote stuff for 101 strings, didn't he?
I have no idea.
Yeah, Bob Loudon, I think, did. I knew his son.
Okay, Billy Root, Frank Taberry, Mike Goldberg, Al Steele.
Well, what?
Sax is Billy Root, Frank Taberry, Mike Goldberg, Al Steele. Somebody didn't show up that night. That's not the picture probably you have.
It sounds like it's the same picture to me.
Joe Techner.
Yeah, see, I can't see. Mine's too vague. I could just, on the right-hand side of the picture, there's a guy in a white shirt looking at the band, sitting down in the audience. Yeah, I can barely make out Al Steele, who's the first guy in the lineup.
Al Steele is standing up playing.
Yeah.
Is Al Steele standing up in your picture?
Yeah.
Somebody's standing up in your picture.
That's all I can make out is somebody standing up playing the saxophone. That's about it.
Okay. Ace Sazone's playing bass and And Jimmy Golden is playing piano.
Yeah. Well, like, so you don't have the original picture to that, huh?
Somewhere I do.
Oh, okay, great.
Or something very similar to it.
Oh, great. Okay. All right, well, let's go back to what I was asking.
I'm trying to find an article that has the people who helped me.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
Okay. Put this on pause. Okay, that's okay. Why don't you describe a typical day managing your place over there and
In Music City, I would get to work around 9 o'clock, 9:30 the latest.
Right.
And then it would start. This was a retail store, so people would be coming in right off the bat.
Right.
And I had salesmen, other than myself, on the floor.
How many did you have?
I don't remember the exact same day. Maybe just a couple when we were upstairs at when we had the jazz club.
Okay.
There was my partner and myself, and we may have had a couple of other salesmen.
Okay.
And if people would come in there, 90% of the time they would want to speak to me. And that would drive me crazy because I had other things to do, but that's what I had to do. I had to talk to whoever came in.
Right. Why would they want to speak to you?
Because most of them that came in were drummers.
Okay.
Well, they always had drum questions.
Right.
So my partner, Billy Welsh, he was the man that got the second most calls.
Right.
But Billy was in a very integral part of the business because he took a lot of load off of me. He did a lot of the bookwork.
Okay.
And then we had a bookkeeper. And
now, did you
and we had a repairman.
Okay.
And that's just what a regular musical instrument store is. You
now,
go in there and you look at instruments. You maybe try out an instrument. Right. Hopefully we try to sell them something. And usually they come in, they drive you crazy. I had one guy walk in one time and picked out the most expensive guitar in the house and says, "Can I try this?" So I looked at him. I couldn't imagine this guy looking at a guitar like that, but I said, "Yeah, I'll let you try it." He says, "Can you give me a pick, please?" So I gave him a pick. He says, "Can I plug it into the amplifier?" Well, I plugged it into the amplifier. And then he turned it up so goddamn loud nobody else in the place could hear themselves talk.
Oh, jeez.
So I said to him, "I have to stop you now because there's too many people in the store." So I turned off the amplifier. I did that first before I spoke to him. I took the guitar out of his hands. Mm-hmm. I said, "Did you want to take the guitar with you today?" He says, "No, man." He says, "How much are the guitar picks?" I said, "They're 3 for a quarter." I said, "They're a dime a piece." He said, "I ain't got that kind of money."
Oh, jeez.
This is my typical customer.
Yeah, all right. Now,
they wanted to come in and try instruments.
Right.
They didn't want to buy them. They wanted to try them. Because they knew that I was involved with jazz and that I liked kids.
Right.
Right? So I was a sucker for them.
Now, did you had like a thing where if they could pay on installments, couldn't they?
Yeah, we had an arrangement with the bank where they could pay on installments if they wanted to.
And did they get free lessons and stuff with that?
That was a totally different thing. That was an accordion program.
Oh, okay.
That was a program where we gave the kids a free 12-bass accordion for 10 weeks at no charge for the instrument. Right. And we sent a teacher to the home, and then we had a band class also every month for the kids, or every week. I don't even remember at this particular time. I think it was a lesson every week and a band class every week or something like that. Right. So they only paid for the lesson. Oh, I see. And we supplied the instrument. Now, did you do any work with the local schools? No, we did not do any work with the local schools. Okay. We did everything on ourselves. Oh, I see. Everything within ourselves. Okay. And the reason we picked the accordion is because it's the easiest musical instrument for a kid to learn how to play. Yeah. He can play the melody, and he can play the chords, and he can play rhythm all at once. Right. Right. So he can do that in his second lesson. Right. So that was the basic instrument to start them on. And some of the kids that started on accordions stayed on it. Some of them went to piano. Some of them gave up.
Right. Now, did you give lessons right in your store too?
We gave lessons in the store.
All right. How many teachers did you employ?
Let me see. We had a trumpet player, trumpet teacher, and we had, besides myself teaching drums, I had another teacher. I had at the time that you're talking to me, I'm trying to picture at that time who the teacher was. What happens is, in the beginning I was teaching, and my partner was teaching.
Right.
And then the best students usually became teachers.
Okay.
Right?
You're right.
That's who was teaching. Paul Patterson was one of the teachers that taught at the store.
Right.
Paul passed away at an early age, unfortunately. He was working day and night.
Right.
It was just terrible. And Dave Levin taught for me also. I think they were the two major teachers at the time that you're talking about.
Right.
Okay.
Now, how late was your store open and the lessons run to? Like,
What's that?
how late was your store open?
Unfortunately, we were open Wednesdays and Fridays till 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And the rest of the days were normal hours, I would say. Like, well, for me, they were normal hours. They were like from 9:30 till around 6:30.
Oh, okay.
And we'd go home.
All right.
But we closed, I guess, 5:30, 6 o'clock. The store closed.
Okay. Now, did you have a family by this time, like around 90?
Yes, positively.
Okay. And
so I only played music for, let me see, till around 1959, 1960, I think, was the last time I really played.
all right. Now, when you were
Because when my kids were growing up, I really stopped playing. I wanted to see the kids.
Right.
I wanted to take care of business and see the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And by that time, we had moved to a different location, and we didn't have facilities for the swing club.
Right. Right.
So the swing club went out of being, unfortunately.
All right. When you were called for working the Blue Note, first of all, describe the Blue Note for me, and describe Jack.
I can't even remember it except that it was a bar.
Right.
And the musicians played on top of the bar. You know, there was a stage on top of the bar. The bar was surrounded. The bar surrounded the stage, so people could sit all around the bar and see the musicians.
Oh, okay. All right. It was one of those kind of things.
One kind of those places.
Okay. Okay. Now, did you have a drum set there, or did you have to bring one in?
I had to bring it because I didn't play there all the time.
Okay.
Sometimes the band came in, they brought their own drummer.
Okay.
And sometimes I couldn't make it, and so a different drummer would play.
All right. Now,
Fats Light played there with me, and Nelson Boyd I told you, played bass with us at times. Jimmy Mobley, I think, played at the Swing Club more than I think he played at the Blue Note. I don't remember. My mind is hazy on those things.
Now, would you get a call from the person coming in, or would you get a call from Jack Fields to come be the house band that night?
It would depend.
Okay.
It would depend on who was coming in. Sometimes it was one of my friends coming in, didn't have a rhythm section.
Right.
They would say, Ellis, we're going to be in Philly in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. You know, they would call me ahead of time.
Right.
Getting me a rhythm section.
Okay.
Right. And sometimes it would be at the Red Hill. I played at the Red Hill an awful lot.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
That's the one Harvey Houston started, right?
No, that's the one I started with Harvey Houston following me.
Oh, all right.
That's a different story, the Harvey Houston. I'll tell you a Harvey Houston story.
Yeah, in fact, I've been trying to get a hold of Sid Mark to talk to.
All right, I'll tell you the Sid Mark story.
All right, well, go ahead.
Harvey Houston was the disc jockey at a radio station in Kansas.
Right.
Right. Now, when I got in town, and I was working around, and he was the disc jockey, and he'd about to have a jazz show.
Right.
And I didn't like what he was playing. So I drove over there one day to say hello and visit him.
Right.
Now, he knew about me, and I knew about him from just hearing him on the air, and we sat down and we talked. And I said, gee, you don't play this and you don't play that. He says, well, why should I? I said, because if you're at a jazz station, that's who you should play. You should play Charlie Parker. You should play Miles Davis.
Oh, was he playing like big band stuff? And
He was playing stuff that really wasn't jazz.
oh, okay, sweet band.
I said his vocalist was Al Hibbler.
Oh, all right.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I said you got to play Billy Eckstine. You got to play Frank Sinatra. You got to play this. You got to play that.
Right.
Well, Sid Marks was the go-for.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
He was the guy that went in the back room to pick up the records and bring them to Harvey Houston.
Right.
Right, for this thing. And unfortunately, Harvey Houston died at a very early age.
Yeah.
And he and I were very close friends, and I booked the Red Hill, and then Harvey came in with me at the Red Hill. He became the so-called MC,
Right.
right, of the concerts that we were doing in Philadelphia. And he MC'd at my place. And Harvey Houston would open up and the show and give them a little speech, blah blah blah, and tell them who's going to play, and then bang, we would start playing. Right?
Were you guys the same age, you and Harvey Houston, about?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't really remember. Anyhow, so Harvey Houston started to play who he was supposed to play. He
Right.
started to play jazz music on a jazz station, and he started to play Billy Eckstine and Frank Sinatra and Jackie and Roy Crowell and
Right.
all kinds of different things, right?
Right.
Well, when he died, Sid took over the station,
Right.
and Sid was indoctrinated with Frank Sinatra.
Oh, yeah, he does the Fridays with Frank and Sundays
That's
with
how
Sinatra.
Friday for Frank started.
Yeah.
If I had never started then with Frank Sinatra, Sid Marks wouldn't have a job today.
That's interesting.
But Sid and I were very good friends after Harvey passed away. Sid's a sweetheart of a guy. He
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah, he just got bumped from
He got bumped
WWDB.
from his gig, but he got another one.
I know, so I got to catch up with him.
Yeah, he's a very nice man.
Well, going back to the Blue Note, describe Jack Fields. What did he look like? What was he like?
What did he look like? Jack Fields was just at my last concert that I did here. I just did a concert 3 weeks ago.
He's still alive?
Huh?
He's still alive?
He's alive. He was at my concert.
Oh, I'd love to hook up with him.
I'll give you his phone number.
Oh, great. God darn, Ellis, that's wonderful.
See what a connection I
Yeah.
have. Jack Fields was a very big reason that it was easy for me to get jazz musicians.
Okay.
Because he cooperated with me,
Okay.
right? And he told the guys Tuesday night, Ellis's place,
Okay.
right? And Frank and Jack and I have always been very close friends, and I just found out that he moved to Florida last year.
Oh.
I got a hold of him. So we talked and we kibitzed, and then I invited him to my concert the other day.
Oh, wow. So what concert were you doing the other day?
At my country club, I have a bunch of people who are in the entertainment committee
All right.
who know nothing about music. And they hire the worst bands for dancing for the people.
Right.
They hire everything just terrible. And I keep fighting with them for years.
Mm.
Finally, they allowed me to do what I wanted to do for one night.
Mm.
So I had a big band jazz concert.
Oh, wow.
And I blew them out of the place, and it was the best thing that they ever had, and they can't wait to do another. And now we're booked for another for March 16th.
Oh, good.
Right? So,
all right, well,
and the band was marvelous. I got to send you a copy of the tape.
yeah, there's some real good musicians coming out of University of Miami, too. When the last time I was down in the Keys, I was coming up, heard some great music.
These are not those kids. Those young kids that are in the University of Miami,
Yeah.
I have no contact with them because I'm in a wheelchair.
Right.
I would love to meet them because I hear that they're just absolutely great.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
But the band I had was a great band.
Yeah, there's some good musicians down there.
Right? And
Yeah.
we played a lot of bassy things.
Uh-huh.
And the piano player was just out of this world. I never even met him before in my life.
Wow.
I just picked him up out of the clear blue sky, and somebody recommended him to me. He was open, and he played the gig, and he was just marvelous.
Wow.
And on the next gig, I can't get him. He moved out of town again.
Oh, gee.
There's not enough work for him.
Yeah. Oh, wow. All right. Well, let me. Well, just so Jack Fields helped you get the major
Jack Fields
people.
was a very big help.
So was he older than you, or younger than you, or about the same age?
I think Jack and I are pretty close to the same age.
Oh, okay.
You finally find somebody as old as me or as young as Jack, whichever that is. Right?
All right, let me turn over this tape a second. Hold on a second now.
Turn it off because I want to find that other thing for you.
Okay.
It's going to take me. I got to take some books out of my briefcase to find it.
Yes.
Where did I put it? That's the question. Hold on.
All right.
Quaker City Jazz.
Right.
Managing editor.
Right.
F.H. Garner.
Okay.
Art director. Zach, which is a, what kind of a name is Zach?
I don't know.
It's a nickname.
Oh, okay.
Balsley, B-A-L-S-L-E-Y,
Okay.
is art director. Columnist, Harvey Houston.
Oh, okay. Oh, this was a major letter than you were putting out.
Dave Bitton.
Dave Fitton, I know Dave.
Do you know Dave?
Yeah.
Talk to him.
Huh?
He was there all the time.
Yeah, I've interviewed him, and I've known Dave for years.
Okay, but Dave was very much involved with the swing club.
Oh, okay.
Bill Chambray.
All right.
All right. Advertisement and business is Ellis Tollin.
Okay.
That's on this one. On another piece, it'll say I'm the editor, and somebody else is somebody else. But these are the people that work with me.
Okay. Oh, that must. So, when did you? About how many of those you would put them out every other week?
Put out a swing club notice every week.
Okay.
And then once a month, when Quaker City Jazz came out, we would send that out on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And we would still keep up the weekly things.
All right.
For to tell the kids who was there and who's coming.
All right. How long did you do the Quaker City Jazz?
Not too long.
Like a year or two, or?
I would say at the end of 56, around 57, we moved our store, and I think that killed everything.
Oh, okay.
Once we moved the store, we didn't have any room for anything.
Oh, all right. Now, what was the reason for moving this?
Now, I just found usually the swing club, the session news that we used to send out was usually a one-page thing. Here, I just found one that's a fold over, like, so it would be 4 pages.
Right.
With Roy Eldridge on the cover. And it's an interesting thing because it tells you a lot about Roy.
Right.
Right? And it also tells you about us and what we're trying to do. Blah, blah, blah,
Oh,
blah,
good.
blah.
Save that.
This is a nice piece. There's a lot of nice pieces I've got here.
Great.
There's some pictures I have here you would love to have.
All right. Well, like I said, after we get, I'm going to make it as soon as towards March. As soon as I get the first draft written of this whole thing, I'm going to be down to see you.
Are you coming down to Florida?
Yeah, I'm going to come down to Florida
When
to see
are you coming?
you. I was thinking sometime like March.
Come March the 16th, I'll get you into the concert.
Oh, all right. That sounds good.
Right?
All right. If they're stock charts, I'll sing with them.
Huh?
if they're using just head charts or stock charts.
No.
Oh.
Well, it's a big band concert.
Yeah, I just did one of those things up here in Philly.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun singing with a big band. But
I like a big band for the energy it has.
Sure.
But I like a small band for the freedom it has.
That's right.
That's two different things.
That's right. All right. Let me ask you this. So why did you move Music City to the new location?
Because it's hard to do business, retail business, on the second floor, which is where we were.
Right.
So we had to move to the first floor, to a street floor.
All right.
So we moved to 1711 Chestnut Street.
And you moved there. You moved there in '56.
Now we moved there around. Let me see, probably around 57 or so.
All right.
And then from there we moved to 1725 Chester Street. A few years later, right up the block.
Now
We had no space in either building.
well, that must have broken your heart to stop the swing club.
Sure it did.
Well, how did you feel about that?
Lousy.
Oh.
But what could I do about it? I had a partner. My partner says we have to move for financial reasons, and we did have to move.
Right.
We were spending money on a swing club instead of trying to make money.
Yeah.
We charged the kids 50 cents in the beginning.
Right.
Then we raised it up to a whole $1.
Right.
And it was costing us like $1,500 a month to run the swing club.
Wow.
Right, so it didn't make too much sense.
Now, with the Red Hill, you said you were helping out with the booking over there. Did you sponsor any concerts?
I wasn't. What happened is the Red Hill Inn used to have shows and things.
Yeah.
And I went in there and introduced myself. And I don't remember everything that happened, except I know they had great Italian food there, too.
Right.
And they knew me from my reputation from playing around. And I said to them, I'd like to bring jazz in here. They said, we can try it. So they tried it. And they liked it.
Right.
They kept trying it, and they kept doing it. And they did it long after I was involved with them.
Okay.
After I stopped playing in I guess I stopped playing 1959, 1960. They still kept running jazz shows there.
Right.
Whenever they could. I know they had Mel Torme there.
Yeah, I've seen some of their advertisements back then. Yeah.
They had a lot. I know I had Lester Young over there with me.
Right.
With the big band and Lester Young.
Right.
And I played there a lot of times with a small group, a lot of times with the big band. So they became an active jazz club in Jersey.
Right.
And Jack Fields, of course, was running his thing at the Blue Note.
Right.
And I don't think the two of them ever really conflicted because there were two different audiences.
That's right. When you had the Jersey audience who wouldn't go over to Philly, and the Philly audience.
It was two different audiences completely.
Yeah.
The people who would go into the Red Hill Inn would never walk into Jack's place.
Right.
They would just never go into that kind of a place.
Right.
And Jack's place was a smoke-filled bar.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was,
My kind of place.
Right, that was my kind of place, except the smoke killed you.
Yeah. Well, all right, well, let me ask you some questions. These are some questions I ask everybody that I'm
Go ahead.
interviewing.
Answer.
Okay. Of all the things that you've done in your life, of what are you the most proud?
Am I proud?
Yeah.
That I had a great family.
Right.
That would probably be the most important thing with my wife, my kids.
Right.
And after that was my music.
Okay. What aspect of your music? Playing itself, or starting up Music City, or?
I think the biggest kick I got out of music was getting the kids interested in jazz.
Right.
It was always fun to play music. But I got a special kick out of getting kids interested in jazz when there was no interest when we started.
Right. Okay. Of all the obstacles you've encountered in your life, which was the hardest to overcome?
For me?
Yeah.
I can't overcome it. Arthritis.
Okay.
Right? For a drummer, that's the worst curse in the world.
Right.
And I was diagnosed with it when I was 20 years old. And the pain that I have when I try to play is unbearable, and always was. And I thought it was normal. I thought all drummers had that.
Right.
So I went to a doctor. But my mother was bedridden with it, and obviously she passed the genes on to me.
So, yeah, right, in your family.
So that was...
But in a way you did overcome that, and the fact that you got...
I overcame it by going home and starting to teach so that I could earn a living without having to play the drums all the time. That way I could just play 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week.
Okay.
Instead of playing 6 nights a week and traveling in a bus and playing 6 nights and traveling on a bus and playing. That bus ride was terrible.
Right, right.
And that whole life was no good. So I wanted to cut down my playing.
Right.
The only way I could do it was the way I did it. I still wanted to play even with the pain.
Right, yeah.
But I couldn't play 6 nights a week. I couldn't even play 3 nights sometimes or 1 night sometimes, but I got through it.
Right. Well, what personal qualities would you say gave you the perseverance to even...
What's that?
What personal qualities would you say that you had gave you the perseverance to play even though you were having pain in your hands?
What quality?
Yeah.
You just mentioned it. Perseverance. That's the only quality. You got to persevere. You got to fight through the wars, through thick and hell.
So the love of the music kind of overrided all that, huh?
Yeah. As soon as I just played a concert here where I was physically sick with the flu. Couldn't hold the sticks because of the arthritis.
Right.
Right. Can't move my feet because I've been paralyzed for 6 years now.
Right.
Right. But I had to play that concert, so I did it. I didn't play great.
Well, once a musician, always a musician.
Right, but I played. That's all.
Yeah.
The band swung. That was the most important thing. To swing the band.
Yep. All right. What advice would you give to a young person starting out in jazz?
In jazz?
Today.
Oh, boy, that's a pretty tough question. First thing, really and truthfully, is listening.
Right.
Listening to the proper people. And the proper people is something that I can't really, what's the word again I want to use? The proper people is not somebody that I can pick, because jazz has changed so darn much over the years.
Right.
You know that.
Right.
And there's all kinds of people who play jazz and play great, and it's not the old swinging type of jazz.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with it. Music has to go forward. No matter how far forward it goes, I still like swinging jazz.
Right.
But the kids, they can get into fusion, they can get into whatever they want to get into, but they got to listen.
Okay.
Listening is the most important thing in the world. That's what we all did when we were kids. We listened.
Right.
And we heard something that sparked us, and that thing that sparked us and invigorated us and made us go forward. I remember the first guy that I really heard that turned me on when I was a little kid was Fats Waller.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I loved his mood. I loved his feel. And from there on, I was hooked. After that, it was bassy. More bassy.
Right.
Right? And Chick Webb's band was around in those days. I don't think that's something that you ever remember.
Oh, I've heard. No, I love Chick Webb.
Chick Webb's band was marvelous.
Yeah.
Chick was a marvelous drummer, one of the greatest I ever heard.
Yeah, a lot of people.
He influenced me more than anybody.
Yeah.
And Basie's band, I just loved all the time, all the years that it existed. I just wish people like that would never die.
Right.
But the young kids have got to listen to young kids' music of jazz in the jazz field.
Right.
Not in the junk field.
Right.
When I say junk, a lot of the music that you hear is what? It is a manufactured product by the record companies aimed at the young kids.
Oh, you're talking about smooth jazz.
I'm talking about what the manufactured stuff that comes out of the record companies that is aimed at the 13-year-old to the 17-year-old kids.
Right.
That's manufactured music.
Right.
Has nothing to do with real music. Somebody figures out what is a good dance tune at this tempo, what lyrics can we make that will excite the kids, and they put a beat to it, and once they got the beat to it, then they add some horns or strings or whatever the hell they want to add to it. But it all starts with the concept of how can I sell records to that group of people.
Right.
It doesn't start out with, hey, there's a great group of people we just heard play, let's record them.
Right.
That's not the way it works.
Well, I know they wring every bit of soul out of it.
What's that?
They wring every bit of soul out of it with what they have now. When I'm teaching my students, I say, look, basically what you're listening here is they take out the improvisation and just leave the rest, and it's boring. You know what I mean? But anyway.
Well, but if jazz is a creative art,
right,
then it can't exist unless it is creative.
Right.
It can't exist if it's manufactured. Like that, what the hell, that cool jazz that I hear?
The smooth jazz, right, yeah.
Cool jazz, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, they call it by many names, but
smooth jazz,
yeah.
They call it. Well, I know friends of mine that are producing records for smooth jazz. They use a drum machine.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And it gives them exactly what they want. The sound is marvelous. Keeps time.
Right.
Right? And then little by little they layer on. They add to this the bass player. They add to this a saxophone player, maybe a guitar player. They layer it on. It's not something that everybody sits down and just plays and creates on the spot.
Right.
It's a manufactured product. So what's that got to do with jazz?
Nothing.
Why should they call it smooth jazz? They should call it smooth crap.
Yeah. All right, here's another question. When you were teaching kids back in the in the 50s, could you tell after meeting them and teaching them a little while which kids would be successful in the field and which kids would not be?
You could tell that almost by the second lesson.
Okay, what kind of things popped out at you?
You could tell whether they were coordinated, naturally coordinated, or whether they had a developed coordination.
Mm-hmm.
You could see where their reflexes were, and you could see the way that their mind would work, how they would think. Because if I would give them a lesson, the first lesson I give everybody is how to hold the drumsticks.
Right.
Then I give them a simple exercise to practice, and when they come back the end of the first week, I know exactly how much they put into it.
Right.
Right? Because I know what they were a week before.
Right.
So I know exactly how much progress they've made, what they put into it. And I can see the struggle that some of them have with trying to hold the sticks properly and move on a simple basic pattern. When I say simple basic pattern, I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 4 with each hand. That's
right.
Pretty basic.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So by the second lesson, you can pretty much tell whether there was any natural coordination or any natural abilities to play the instrument. Now, musically is a whole different story.
Okay.
Some of them could play great, but they couldn't play musically. They could play mechanically and play all kinds of things.
Okay, well, define musically.
Huh?
Define musically. What do you mean they couldn't play musically?
They couldn't play a musical phrase.
Okay.
When you play a musical instrument, you're playing a phrase, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're playing the blues, you got what, 3 sets of 4s in there, right?
Right.
And you're phrasing within that pattern. Now, when you phrase, what are you saying? Musically, what are you saying within that pattern?
Okay.
Right? You're setting a groove. Well, if a drummer doesn't set a groove but just plays rudiments or something like that,
right,
he's not playing music. He's playing rudiments.
Okay. All right. Now I see what you mean.
He can play them as fast as hell.
Right.
But it's still rudiments. It's not music. So they got to apply it to the drum set in the same way as you do with any other instrument. The rudiments are the same as the scales for the piano player or the saxophone player.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have to apply it to music.
All right.
And the music for the drummer is 2 things. One is keeping time, and keeping time with a bass player in mind, because the bass player to me is the most important guy in the group.
Sure.
He's playing not only time, but he's playing the tonic of the chord.
Sure.
So he's playing music. He's the important guy.
Right.
So if you play and groove with the bass player, then that's the first thing you've accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
After that, you got to be able to play musically with the group. Sometimes they leave little fill-ins, and you have to play a musical fill-in.
Right.
Not a
You have to be sensitive to what they
You got to play. You got to play what the music calls for.
Right.
Right. So that's music.
So you would say part of someone making you would be able to tell someone would be a good jazz musician is intuitiveness.
Is it what?
Is being intuitive?
Yes.
Oh, you definitely need that to be okay.
Positively 100%.
Okay.
Charlie Parker was intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
As was Dizzy Gillespie, as was Clifford Brown, as was Ben Webster, Lester Young, anybody I play with, anybody I know that could play great.
Right.
They didn't learn how to do it. It was something that came out of them because they had an instrument that it could come out of.
Right.
So it has to be within the person. You can't give it to somebody. If they don't know how to do it, you can't explain it. If God didn't tell them and God didn't give it to them, you can't give it to them.
Okay, all right.
You can explain what they're listening to, but you can't make them play it or feel it.
Okay.
You can only make them play the instrument.
All right.
After that, it's up to them.
Okay. Now, do you notice any differences between male musicians and female musicians in
Not
jazz?
one damn bit.
Okay. So you don't.
Not one bit. If a person is a great musician, what's the difference of gender?
Okay. Okay.
Right? I mean, people.
I agree with you.
People are going to fight with me on that.
Well, it depends on who you're talking. Some people say, "Oh, well, girls do this and girls do that," and then.
That's baloney.
I know. That's.
That is absolute baloney.
Okay.
If a girl wants to do something on a musical instrument, if God gave her the talent to do it, then she can do it just as well as a fellow.
Okay.
It doesn't look nice according to some girls. That's the problem.
Right.
It's the girl's problem.
All right. Let me see. Okay. If I had spoken to you 30 years ago or 40 years ago,
yes.
What different view of the world and yourself would you have had?
What difference would I view the world than I do now?
Yeah. If I was talking to you like 40 years ago.
I'd have more energy then.
I mean, would you be looking at the world differently?
The world?
Yeah, your world view. I mean, the way you think about life. If I had talked to you 40 years ago, how would it be different? Yeah, how would it be different than now?
Yeah, life is something, you're born, you have life. And what you do with that life is up to what God gave you some innate ability to do, or if He gave it to you. All men are not created equal.
Right.
That's a myth.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I would be a 7'4" basketball player making $25 million a year. Right? So
right.
All people are not created equal. And whatever talent you are given, if it is a talent that you're given, it is up to you to develop it. Nobody's going to develop it for you. You have to develop it. So that hasn't changed. That's been a constant all my life.
So has there been any kind of things that have changed over the last 40 years, the way you look?
Yes. I'm an old man.
Right.
That's what changed.
Well, that gives you a different perspective. So what?
Your body starts to crumble.
Right.
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 And you see that you're at the end of the line, and that the game is over.
Right.
That's what you see as you get older.
Right.
Right. So the thing is, well, should I have played more and not had a family or things like that? Those things don't enter your mind.
So
the only thing that enters my mind is I wish I was healthier than I am so that I could play at this particular time in my life when I have the time to play.
Right. Now, everybody I ask who's getting, like when I asked Butch Ballard, because he's a drummer, and he's still playing, and he's in his 80s, and I said, how do you do the fast tempos? Because he just worked with Clark Terry, and he's getting old too. Clark Terry, he's old, and I said, he says, I cheat. He said, when you get older, you just find a different way of doing stuff, and he says you still play well, but you're wiser and you can cheat better. But then there's other people like Larry McKenna, who's a lot younger than Butch Ballard, and he's going through some depression because of
he's depressing because he's losing his facilities.
Yeah. So
it is depressing to lose your facilities.
Right.
But since you can't do a damn thing about it,
right,
then you better do the best you can do with what you've got left.
Yeah, with Larry, he doesn't, to anybody else, he sounds just as good as he ever did, but he's to himself. And I've noticed a lot of male musicians go through this.
I know physically I can't play like I played 40 years ago.
Right.
In fact, 40 years ago is when I stopped playing.
Right.
And I can't play as good as when I was a young man.
Right.
With the artist writer. But I'm musically smarter.
Right.
And the older you get, the more musical, the better feel you have for what you should be doing. You may not be able to do it, but you have the right feel now.
Right.
And the feel keeps getting better all the time. So old musicians don't grow old; they just mellow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's an awful lot of singers you can see that way too, because I'm a vocalist myself, and you can see
What's that, dear?
A lot of singers, as they get older, the voice changes, of course with age, and you have to work with what you've got. But again, like you said, you mellow with age, and you're able to.
God, do you realize how good Ella Fitzgerald was?
Sure.
Oh my God.
Yep.
You're talking about my favorite girl singer.
Yep. I got
Nobody sang like her, and I heard her when she was dying, and she was great.
Yep. I know. I mean, you can still pull it out somehow.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right.
But
and look at Sinatra. He lost his voice.
Yeah.
But he didn't lose his phrasing.
Right.
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 So he kept going.
That's right.
And people wanted to hear Frank Sinatra. Didn't sing right, but he phrased right.
Right. Yeah.
He didn't lose that part of it. So as you get older, you lose certain things, and you just got to go with what you got. Look, You buy an automobile, and it runs down. But you still put the key in there, and you still try to go somewhere.
Right.
Right? You don't just sit still and say, geez, I can't go anywhere. The car doesn't work.
That's a good way to put it.
Well, that's what it is. That's what life is all about.
That's right.
You get to a certain point, and then you go downhill.
Well, one last question before we wrap this up for this time. Do you think musicians, especially jazz musicians, have a different perspective on life than what we say, like, quote, unquote, normal people?
I don't think that real jazz musicians have a perspective of life. They only have a perspective of music.
Right.
And that they get by day, any way they can, just so they can play their music.
Okay.
It was true with all of the people that I knew. I don't think Charlie Parker had a plan for tomorrow.
Right.
Or Ben Webster or Roy Eldridge or anybody else. The only thing they were looking for tomorrow was to play their instrument.
Okay.
Wherever they could play it.
So that you'd see that...
Well, they only live for one thing, to play music, to be creative.
Right.
That's it. There's no plans.
Okay.
I had a plan.
Right.
My plan was to stop the pain, so I started teaching.
Right, right.
My plan. It had nothing to do with music.
If you hadn't had that happen to you, how do you think your life would be different?
If it hadn't been different,
I mean, if that hadn't happened,
I'd have probably been like the rest of them, broke, playing in a gin mill somewhere,
right?
Until smoke and whatever it is would get me and die at an early age.
All right. But you would have followed that if that hadn't happened then?
Probably.
Okay.
All musicians would follow that.
Okay.
All musicians want to play.
Right.
Where can they play?
Right.
They have no choice. If the god-darn president of the United States would subsidize jazz music, how much would it really cost them?
Yeah.
It's the only art form that we have to give to the world.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Why doesn't the son of a gun get off his ass and subsidize jazz music?
That's right.
Now, do you know that I've written a letter to the president for the last 40 years?
Right.
Never received an answer?
Right. Well, it's not considered a viable music. It's not considered a viable music still. I was in Washington, D.C. about 3 years ago when they lost their only jazz station. And then we lost ours up here in Philly. Our only 24-hour jazz station, gone. And they don't look at it as important. Oh, when you wrote to the president, what did you ask them? Just to subsidize it, or?
I told them that jazz is the only art form that we have to give to the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. And that the jazz musician is starving.
Right.
And pretty soon, there won't be any more jazz musicians, and we won't have anything to give to the world.
Right.
Except pollution.
Right. That's right.
So therefore, it would be a wise thing to subsidize those people who are creative and who give the rest of us inspiration, and certainly give inspiration to the rest of the world. When anybody goes and plays jazz in another country,
right,
the first thing they say when they cut back is, "Say, boy, I wish I could live there."
Right.
They treat musicians like kings.
Right, I know.
And here we're treated like crap.
That's right. That's right. I'm just going over the union stuff when I was looking at the musicians union in Philly. In fact, I've been researching the musicians union in Philly, and how much they cared about the Philadelphia orchestra musicians, but they didn't give a shit about the
jazz musicians.
No. In fact, I looked at an old ledger of the black musicians union when it first started in 1927, all written out by hand.
Yeah.
And there's only about 16 musicians in there from 1927. They had to pay $2 for an application fee, and they had their names on there and the instrument they played and their address. And this was the Black Musicians Union, the one that first started out. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting to look.
What did they do for those musicians who joined and gave them $2?
Nothing.
Right?
Nothing.
They put the money in their pocket.
Right.
Now they had a paycheck to take home to their wives.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let me turn this off now because I want to. This is the tape.
I want to give you Jack Field's phone number.